In this uncertain and ever-changing world, how can we keep ourselves motivated? How to avoid stress and strain, worries and anxieties, and keep the mind positive and peaceful?
The topic for today is love and relationships. Marriage or relationships, they play an important part in our lives. In fact, we spend longer time with our partners than with our own parents and children. But nobody prepares you for this venture. You're not taught, you're not trained how to get on with your partner, as a result of which there are problems that happens in relationships. If at all, people barely survive for a few years. So the general tendency is to follow the herd. When there is lack of knowledge, the mind follows the herd. And everyone operates on a herd instinct. They go to school, they go to university, they get a job, and then once they make some money, they want to find a partner. So where do we learn from? We learn from society. We learn from parents. See, suppose a person is born and brought up in Saudi Arabia. His way of approaching relationship will be completely different from a person who's born in America. Similarly, a person born in Japan would have a completely different view to someone born in Finland. So each one develops a different attitude based on the place that they're born in, based on the family that they're born into. And then you watch movies, you pick up idea of relationship and love from films, from books. And nowadays on social media, everybody has an opinion to give about relationships. Even the local barber gives you an advice. You understand? So people develop a romantic idea. One set of people have a romantic idea about marriage, about relationship. Another set of people have a pragmatic approach. And the third set of people have a downright pessimistic approach. The different approaches because they absorb it from different sources. One of the poets, he says, marriage is like a cage. One sees the birds from outside desperately trying to get in, and the birds inside equally desperate to get out. So it's a herd instinct. You follow the herd. So the purpose of the lecture today is to make you stay in the cage inside and enjoy it with the doors open. You understand? So the essence of relationship. What is the essence of relationship? This is something fundamental, but hardly anyone understands it, much less practices it. The fundamental factor in a relationship is the mind. The role of the mind is often neglected. You have to mind the mind in the relationship. See, the difference is you see a picture of a person, and that's why people get disappointed when they see the profile on the phone and then they go and meet the person. Because when you meet the person, you're meeting the mind. The profile is just a picture. Similarly, when we have online classes and you come in person, it's different because you're meeting the mind. So the essence of relationship, the essence of marriage is mind management. The capacity to manage the mind. If you can manage the mind, you can manage a relationship, you can manage anyone in the world. In a relationship, there are two people, and they are referred to as a couple. In Sanskrit, they use the word dampati, means a couple. A couple in physics refers to two equal forces. And therein lies the strength as well as the weakness. If the two forces are operating in the same direction, it becomes a strength. If the two forces are operating in different directions, it breaks the relationship. What are these two forces? They are the two minds. Your mind and the other person's mind. The meeting of two minds. And the first thing you understand as far as the mind is concerned is no two minds are the same. You pick up any two people, no two minds are the same. It could be brothers, it could be sisters, it could be children to parents. No two minds are the same. It's natural. We're not criticizing, it's natural. It's called raga dvesha, means likes and dislikes. Each one has different set of likes and dislikes. It's summer now. One person wants to switch on the heating. You understand? They want to turn up the heat thermostat. Other person wants to reduce it. It's natural. Each one has a different likes. I remember a class member, she told me, it's almost 10 years back when she was attending classes, she was saying that she and her husband, they were getting on very well. I said, oh, is it? How is it? She said, oh, it's because, we share the same bed, but we have made it in half-half. My half is soft and his half is hard. So, there you go. It's a clue for harmony in relationships. I heard two friends talking to each other, and one friend was asking the other person, how's your better half? To which the other person replied, you mean bitter half? So some people look at relationship as a source of joy, others not so much. They look at it as a source of sorrow. What is interesting is it has nothing to do with the relationship. Just as the internet is the same for everyone, and one person can use the same internet to scam others, to destroy others, and another person uses the internet to support good causes. So it's nothing to do with the internet, it's how you use it. Similarly, relationship is all about how you relate. It has nothing to do with the other person, but how you relate to that person. John Milton, the famous English poet, he remarks, the mind is its own. It can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. You can take a look. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. In his famous book, Paradise Lost. A beautiful person you can have next to you, you can make a mess out of it. Or you may have a terrible person and you can make a heaven out of it. Shakespeare gives us two beautiful examples in his two plays. The first play is by Othello. In that play, Othello fell in love with Desdemona, and Desdemona fell in love with Othello. They loved each other so dearly. In fact, they eloped because Desdemona's father was a senator. He was not in support of the marriage. She eloped with Othello. And what happened in that play? It was a tragedy at the end. Othello kills her, strangles her to death and he kills himself. They loved each other, and it was a tragedy. The other play Shakespeare gives us is Taming of the Shrew, where Petruchio woos Katharina. Katharina is a shrew. Shrew means an ill-tempered person. Nobody wants to relate to her. In fact, everyone is 10 feet away from her because she throws things at them. But he knows how to relate. He likes her. She's a lovely person. He relates to her beautifully, and in the end, they're the best couple in town. It's nothing to do with the person. It could be a terrible person. It could be a beautiful person. And Othello, just before he kills himself, he says something which is so useful. He says, write me as one. He's telling his people, write me as one who loved not wisely but dearly. I didn't love her wisely. I loved her dearly. Take a look. So it's not how dearly you love a person that matters, but are you wise enough to know how to relate to that person? So it has nothing to do with the other person. It has nothing to do with the partner. The entire thing is to do with you. Because in order to manage another person's mind, you need to be able to manage your own mind. If you're not able to manage your mind, how can you manage anybody else's mind? It's how you relate, not whom you relate to, that matters. Take a look. The entire focus today is on whom you're relating to. Nowhere you are trained, nowhere you're taught how to relate. As a result, there are cataracts and cataracts in relationships. And it is the therapists, the psychiatrists, the divorce lawyers, they make all the money out of it. Poor people suffer for no fault of theirs. Too much emphasis is on the right person. I want to get Mr. Perfect. I want to get Miss Universe. I want to get a soulmate. You understand? So there's too much emphasis on the right person. Now what you have to understand is the nature of the mind. The mind is indiscriminate in nature. The mind can fall for anyone. Just because the mind falls for someone, it does not mean that is the right person. The mind is indiscriminate in nature. Elizabeth Taylor, she has a dubious record of being married 8 times. And twice she was married to Richard Burton. Twice. First time she married, divorced. Second time she married, divorced. And that's what Samuel Johnson says when a person remarries. It's triumph of hope over expectations. Triumph of hope over experience. So, just because the mind falls does not mean that's the right person. What you like to do is not necessarily what is right for you to do. The person who was asking his friend, hey, find me a girl. The name is Lucy. Find me a girl by the name of Lucy. He's telling his mates. And they ask him, listen, it's a funny request. Why specifically Lucy? Is anything to do with the name? Can't it be anybody else? No, it has to be Lucy. I said, why? Because I already have a tattoo with my previous girlfriend. So at least before you do a tattoo, try to be discriminate. So in the famous play Romeo and Juliet, Juliet falls in love with Romeo, Romeo with Juliet. Both of them are in the opposing factions. They are both sworn enemies, Montagues and Capulet. And when they fall in love, the first thing that Juliet says is, "My only love sprung from my only hate." My only love sprung from my only hate. Take a look. The famous play of Romeo and Juliet. My only love sprung from my only hate. Too early seen, unknown, and known too late. Prodigious birth of love is it to me that I must love a loathed enemy. What Shakespeare is saying is, if you hate your partner, don't worry. You understand? There's still a hope for us. So, even if you choose the right person, even then it's not a guarantee, because the nature of the mind is it changes. The two factors, your mind and the partner's mind. The partner's mind can change, your mind can change. The two variable factors. So even if it's the right person, the person's mind can change. You fall in love with a person, he looks very handsome, and what happens? Suddenly, 5 years' time, he decides to grow a beard. You hate beards. He loves beards. Both are meat eaters, and one person suddenly turns vegetarian and doesn't want meat in the house. The mind can change. In fact, what the mind likes in the 20s is different from what it likes in 30s, in 40s, 50s. You understand? So ideally speaking, every 10 years you need a different partner. But we can't do like that. But one of the suggestions to avoid divorces is to have a 10-year contract. You understand? You get married, 10-year contract, subject to extension. So then there won't be divorces. You can reduce it. The success in a relationship is not on compatibility, but your ability to deal with incompatibility. There could be 99 things which could be compatible, but that one thing which is not compatible can bring down the relationship. So how do you manage that area of incompatibility? And nobody looks into that. Everybody is looking into compatibility. One of the reasons for divorces is partner snoring. Snoring. The other partner snores. Is incompatible. So difficult to sleep. How do you get on with that person? Or a husband and wife, they may have a different outlook towards bringing up children. Your view may not be compatible with the other person. There's a saying, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Take a look. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. That one link which is weak determines the entire strength of the chain. How you manage that one weak quality determines the strength of the relationship. The paradigm shift people need to make in their relationships, in marriage, is to start relating with the intellect, not with the mind. The entire world relates with the mind. Hardly anyone uses their intellect. Why Petruchio was successful with Katharina in Taming of the Shrew is because he used his intellect. Othello did not use the intellect, and that's why he said, I loved her dearly but not wisely. Intellect protects the relationship. So what is the difference between the mind and the intellect? The difference between mind and intellect is, mind is the equipment in us which has feelings, emotions, likes and dislikes. And intellect is that which thinks, reasons, decides and judges. Are you operating with the mind or with the intellect will make all the difference. Take a look. It has impulses. There's feelings. It could be positive or negative. Similarly, positive or negative emotions, various likes and dislikes. All this put together is the mind. And opposite of the mind is the intellect, which is the thinking faculty, capacity to reason. It discerns, it decides. So, mind looks at the right person. The intellect switches on to the right way to relate to any person. So if you use the intellect, you make that person right for you. There's a huge difference between the right person and the right person for you. So you use your intellect and see how you can adapt and make it the right person. That's the greatness of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is in the Guinness Book of World Records. No, don't look up, I'm just saying. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records for maximum number of wives, 16,008. It's there in the parable. They're given such an exaggerated number. Why are they given such an exaggerated number? To highlight the fact that he's able to manage 16,008 minds. That shows the power of the intellect. So many minds he's able to manage. Now, we are not suggesting you keep that as your goal. It's just an example which is given. Love starts from the mind. And then the intellect has to govern it, has to manage it. The intellect protects your love. The intellect directs your love, manages your love. Exactly like the shock absorber in a vehicle. You go through the bumps, you go through the potholes, the shock absorber in the vehicle absorbs all the shocks. Similarly, the intellect absorbs the shocks in your relationships. And what is the shock? It starts after the honeymoon. When you start seeing the other person's nature, you start seeing the other person's mind, it's a shock. So you need an intellect to be able to handle that. So one of the writers, he says, what is love? He says, love is a temporary insanity cured by marriage. It's a temporary insanity cured by marriage. You get married, you come to terms with the realities. If the intellect does not control the emotion of love, you become emotional. When you become emotional, you make mistakes in the relationship, and it can lead to separation. So what is to become emotional? To become emotional means two things. Number one, you act on that emotion. Number two, you are affected by the emotion. There's nothing wrong with having an emotion, including an emotion like anger. There's nothing wrong with anger, provided you're able to control it. It's just like the drivers driving the F1 cars. They drive at such high speed, but they have perfect control over the wheel. You could drive at 30 miles and meet with an accident. So it's not the speed that matters, it's the control over that speed. Similarly, have you got a control over love? You could be very passionate. There could be a lot of passion in you. There's nothing wrong with it. But you should not become passionate. So first is not to act on that emotion. The French footballer Zidane, in the 2006 World Cup, he was given the red card for headbutting the opponent. France lost. He was sent out. So you could feel that emotion, but you can't act on it. Mike Tyson bit off his opponent's ear during the fight. So much of rage, he couldn't control it. He acted on the emotion. Or you could get affected by the emotion. Even an emotion like joy, you could get affected by it. In 2002, there was a person who won the lottery, almost 9.7 million pounds he won. Within 8 years, he lost everything. You get affected by success. The difference between having emotion, feeling emotion, and not getting affected by the emotion. The difference between feeling an emotion, so you should feel the emotion, but not be affected by the emotion. If you're affected by the emotion, you become emotional. You feel it, you're not affected, you're detached. Detachment is not indifference. Indifference is tamas. Tamas is inertia. That is indifference. But to be detached is a sattvic quality, a quality which is based on knowledge. Now, what is this journey of love? The journey of love starts with an identification. When you identify with a person, you make a connection with the person. You have feelings for that person. You're fond of that person. That's how love starts, with an identification. But once that identification starts, it can go in two different directions. And that's where you've got to be careful. So there's nothing wrong with having a fondness for a person. It's necessary for a relationship. But it can take two different directions. And what are these two different directions? It could be love or attachment. And what makes this difference is if the emotion is tainted with selfishness, it becomes attachment. If it is not tainted with selfishness, it remains as love. You identify with the person, you're fond of that person, but now the focus shifts to what is that person doing for you? You use the other person as a vehicle to satisfy your needs. Could be material needs, for which you need a rich father-in-law. So it could be material needs, it could be physical needs, it could be emotional needs or intellectual needs. So the person caters to your needs, as a result of which you say, I love that person, I like that person very much. The test is, what if that person stops catering to your needs? How do you feel about that person? That determines whether you have love or attachment. Attachment is ephemeral, love is enduring. So when people take the marriage vows, what do they say? I marry this person, richer or poorer, health or sickness. You understand? And what it means is, you start the marriage, you're rich, then you become poor. Health and then sickness later. So you're prepared for it. No matter what the other person goes through, you're prepared to endure that. Whereas attachment is ephemeral. It's like the Las Vegas weddings. Morning you get wedded, evening you're filing for divorce. It's ephemeral. Love plus selfishness is attachment. Take a look. Attachment is different from love. If you understand this distinction, you can set right your relationship. Any relationship. It could be a mother and child relationship. It could be two partners. It could be government and citizens. The principle applies to all relationships. So, love plus selfishness. Attachment disguises itself as love. Attachment is the evil twin of love. You feel you're loving that person. You give everything to that person. But in the end, there's separation. You don't understand what's happened. So this is what has happened. The emotion of attachment has polluted the relationship without you knowing that's polluted. Just like a virus enters the body, you don't know the virus has entered. It disguises itself as a healthy cell. Like a scam text or a scam email, you feel it's the authentic one, you get scammed. So love is the glue that binds the relationship together. Attachment is the acid that corrodes the glue. It destroys the relationship. So how can you distinguish between attachment and love? There are 4 factors which help us to get an idea whether your emotion is attachment or love. The first factor is the more you are attached, it shows up as expectations. There's constant expectations you have from the partner. Constant do's and don'ts. You want your partner to eat healthy. I remember a lady coming and asking, "Oh, my husband, he doesn't eat healthy. He works late, he comes home, he eats all sorts of food, junk food." And she constantly keeps nagging, "Eat healthy, eat healthy, eat healthy." So what should you do? So the expectation, the moment there is an attachment, you are expecting that person to act according to your likes and dislikes. The husband wants a child, the wife is not able to give him a child. How do you feel about your partner? You loved her, but now she doesn't cater to you. How do you feel about that? So when there is an attachment, you are putting pressure on the other person. As a result, the other person can't take it anymore after a while. Opposite of expectation is acceptance. Accepting the nature of that person. And when you accept that person for whom they are, that person stays with you. Or my partner drinks and drinks and drinks and drinks. You accept it. The nature of my partner is to drink. You don't need to drink. He's not asking you to drink. He wants to drink. Let him drink. Or he doesn't exercise. I asked that person, is he asking you to exercise? Is he forcing you? No. Then why? Leave him alone. He doesn't want to exercise. Let him not exercise. So acceptance is, each one has a nature, you accept the nature of that person. So the happiness in a relationship is directly proportional to acceptance and inversely proportional to expectations. Take a look. To the extent you are able to accept, there will be happiness. The moment there are expectations, your happiness reduces. Expectations come from attachment. Acceptance is love. The second factor is, when there is attachment, there is possessiveness. How does attachment express? As possessiveness. You want to control your partner because of insecurity. Attachment creates that feeling of insecurity. So you're constantly thinking about controlling that other person. You're so possessive. You become a human CCTV. That's all your job is. What the partner is up to. What are you doing? Opposite of that is love. And in the case of love, you give freedom to the other person. You don't clamp down on the other person. You give total freedom. And the more you give freedom to the other person, the closer the person gets to you. You can give freedom to the other person only when you feel secure. When you're insecure, you can't give freedom to the person. So, a wife wants to go to the temple You want to go and play golf. You drop her in the temple, you go play golf, come back, pick her up from the temple, go home, and each one talks about their experiences. That is freedom. So both blossom in their own way. Thirdly, how does attachment express? It expresses as agony in the relationship. To the extent you're attached, to that extent there is agony. It's a law of life. We're not sitting here and cursing people, but it's a law of life. And you can see that anywhere and everywhere. A person who's attached to money, the moment you start spending money, is agony. And you make the mistake of taking your friends out for a meal, and you look at the menu card. Oh my God, it's the wrong restaurant. But by the time you're seated at the table, and the friend is saying, oh, let's go for this dish. No. This dish is not good. 15 pounds, It's not good, it's not good. Let's go for this one. This is very good, 5 pound one. It's agony. There's a person who invited us for a stay in his house here in Hampstead. I hope he's not in the audience. So he invited, and he had a large house with a built-in lift inside, all beautiful house, everything. And he had given separate bedrooms for each one of us. Then we went in. I didn't know that. As soon as we entered, there was plastic sheeting all the way. He did not tell me that there were builders coming, I thought everything was good. The house looked good. Suddenly there's plastic sheeting. And then I take him aside and I ask him, hey Robin, what's happened? You didn't tell me builders were going to come. He said, no, it's not builders. Everything is fine. I said, what is this plastic sheeting? Oh, it's because of the white carpet. He's put brand new carpet there. You understand? Plastic sheeting right through the house. You got to believe it. You're walking, it's so uncomfortable, It's nothing but attachment. You get attached, you can't enjoy the carpet. Nice plush carpet he's put. He himself is not able to enjoy it. Forget about the guests. It's agony. You're attached to your child, and the son says, Dad, Mom, I'm gay. And if you are not agreeing with that, it's an agony for the parents. If it is love, you accept it. You say, son, you take your course. Whatever you want to do, we are there for you. We support you. So when there is love, there is joy, there is fun in the relationship. And fourthly, when there is attachment, you lose the person. Eventually you lose the person. It's a matter of time. To the extent you have love, you keep that relationship going indefinitely. See, people who are attached to their looks, they do plastic surgeries. Change this, change that. In the end, they look terrible. You lose your looks because of obsession with the looks. Any form of obsession, any form of attachment, you lose it. In some families, the father and the son don't talk to each other. I remember a family I used to go. The father and son never spoke to each other. And they'll speak through the mother. Ask that fellow where he's going out. Father's asking the mother. Mother's asking the son, son, where are you going? Tell that old man it's none of his business. She can't say old man, she says the father is. He's saying none of your business. What does he mean? He's in this house, it's my house. How can he say it's none of my business? You understand? So the mother is a mediator between the father and the son. And interestingly, why they don't talk to each other is because of attachment. It's not because of lack of love. He wants the son to behave in a certain way. He's not behaving. That's why he's not talking. Expectations. In the case of love, you stay forever. There's no separation. So see the differences, the 4 differences. You see the summary there. Attachment expresses as expectations. Opposite of that is acceptance, which is a product of love. In the case of attachment, there is possessiveness. In the case of love, you give freedom to the other person. More the love, more the freedom. Attachment is agony, love is joy. Attachment, you lose the person. In the case of love, you stay forever. Nobody will leave you. If you love that person, you accept that person. There are 3 types of love. Selfish love, unselfish love, and selfless love. What is selfish love? Based on what we have analyzed so far, can anyone say what is selfish love?
There is a give and take in the relationship.
No, 1 minute. Just answer my question, please. What is selfish love? Louder, please. Attachment. Very good. Selfish love is nothing but attachment. In the case of selfish love, you're dependent on the other person. You stifle that person. After a while, the person can't take it anymore. And then the person leaves. Sometimes even children tell the parents, Mom, Dad, we love you, but we have to leave you. So you love that person. It's not a lack of love, but the attachment is too much. It's suffocating. Superior to that is unselfish love. Unselfish love is the opposite of attachment, which is detachment. When you're detached, you're unselfish. You put the other person's need in front of you. And that is true love. Paradoxically, true love is detachment. You learn that from the solar system. How is the solar system functioning so effectively? Because each of the planets maintain a certain distance from the sun. Mars maintains a certain distance. Venus maintains a certain distance. Earth maintains a certain distance. There's life on Earth. Why? Because 93 million miles away from the sun. I'm not suggesting that much distance you have to keep from your partner. I'm not suggesting that. It's just an example. Detachment is not physical, it is mental. You can be physically close to the person. That doesn't mean you're attached, but you're mentally detached. You accept that person's nature. If one person is detached in a relationship, the relationship will survive. If both are detached, it's heaven. So don't worry about the other partner. You be detached. You understand? If you are detached, one person is detached, it'll be all right. And selfless love, the third factor, is universal. And it's beautifully captured in one of the poems. He says, He prayeth well who loveth well both man and bird and beast. He prayeth well who loveth well all things both great and small. And that is selfless love. See that? He prayeth well who loveth well both man and bird and beast. So it's universal love. He prayeth best who loveth best all things both great and small. Famous poem by Coleridge. So the paradigm shift is to use the intellect, not the mind. A smartphone is different from a brick phone because a smartphone is connected to the internet. Similarly, smart love is when love is connected to the intellect. So change the feeling of love from the mind to the intellect. So love is the foundation for a relationship. But a house also needs pillars. It can't just survive on a foundation. So what are the 4 pillars of a relationship? The 4 pillars of a relationship are regulation, assessment, gratitude, and sacrifice. So the foundation is love, but the pillars are these 4 factors. See that on the screen. Regulation, assessment, gratitude, and sacrifice. Rags. You can remember that by rags. Your relationship, you can turn it from rags to riches. You understand? So what is regulation? Regulation is, as far as the physical desire is concerned, the sexual desire is concerned, how you deal with the sexual desire can make or break the relationship. It's a binding factor. It brings the 2 people together. If you know how to relate to that sexual desire, it's exactly like food. Not too much, not too little. If it's too little, it's frustration. If it is too much, you get neutralized to it. There's a saying, familiarity breeds contempt. When you indulge in anything, including the contact with the other person, when you indulge in it too much, familiarity breeds contempt. You hate that person because you get neutralized to the pleasure that you're getting from it. Take a look at that. St. Augustine says, familiarity breeds contempt. So even youngsters, if they can save up until marriage, then that becomes one more extra factor to bind them together. So sexual desire is the most powerful desire. You need to regulate it. Not too much, not too little. Second factor is assessment. How do you assess the other person? In fact, this is applicable in all relationships. It could be even at work. How do you assess your colleagues? How do you assess your boss? Assessment is based on one's inherent nature called vasanas. Your capacity to determine other person's vasanas. Vasanas are something that you're born with. Everybody is born with. It's your innate nature, your inherent urge. For example, a person could have vasanas for spending a lot. He's a big spender. Another person could be a miser. So you understand they have that vasanas. You accept them for what they are. She could be a city girl, he could be a country boy. You understand they have different vasanas. So based on the vasanas, you relate to that person. It's not judging that person, it's relating to that person. Once you assess that person, you have the right expectation. When you have the right expectation, there's a right relationship. The problem is there's no assessment or there is wrong assessment, as a result of which there's a wrong expectation and a wrong relationship. How can you assess another person's vasanas? Look at their Netflix feed. Look at the algorithm of Instagram. What comes on the feed on your Instagram? The algorithm picks that up. What does it pick up? Vasanas. They must have studied Vedanta. You understand? Must have studied it. So, each one has the vasanas. You can't change that. The law is each one acts helplessly according to the vasanas, just as you are a victim of your vasanas. You can't change your vasanas. Even if you want to change something, it takes time. It takes enormous effort. Can't happen overnight. And coolly you expect the other person to change it when you're not able to change yourself. It's the most uncharitable thing. Each one acts helplessly according to the vasanas. In fact, there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, and what the verse says is, restraint can't do anything. Even a man of knowledge acts in accordance with his nature. What can restraint do? Nigraham kim karishyati. Restraint can't do anything. See that? Even a man of knowledge, even a person, for example, a smoker, he knows it is wrong to smoke, and yet he smokes because he's acting in accordance with his own nature. Beings follow the nature. What can restraint do? Restraint can't do anything. So any amount of you telling the other person, don't smoke, eat healthy, exercise, etc., doesn't work. You can't change the other person unless the other person wants to. In fact, if you want to change the world, do it while you're single. Once you're married, you can't even change the television channel. What you're talking about changing the other person? TV channel we can't change. Third factor is gratitude. You're grateful for the partner who is taking care of your needs. And all your needs may not be met. Nobody in the world can take care of all your needs. You may have 5 needs, the person takes care of 3 needs. Be grateful for that. The tendency of the mind is to focus on what it doesn't have. Instead of that, focus on what you're getting. Be grateful for that. Sadi, the Persian poet, he says, I cried because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. See that? I cried because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. At least you have a partner. There are people who are lonely. They don't even have a person whom they can fight with. You understand? It doesn't matter if I fight with, at least let a person be next to me. They're so desperate. You can relate to that. Fourth factor is sacrifice. Sacrifice is to do your duties and not claim rights. Again, the tendency of the mind is to claim rights. This is my right as a husband. This is my right as a wife. The moment you start claiming rights, there's a fracture in the relationship. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. What is your duty as a husband? What is your duty as a wife? So, claiming rights causes arguments, constant friction. Is nothing but ego. So sacrificing is not giving up anything. Sacrificing simply means swallowing your pride. Just to give a benefit of doubt to the other person. Perhaps that person is right. Let me consider that person's point of view. Just to consider that person's point of view. That is sacrifice. Otherwise you're arguing and arguing and arguing. Arguing with your partner is like trying to read the terms and conditions on the form. Eventually you give up and say, I agree. Anyway you're going to agree. What is the point in arguing? So just sacrifice. So 4 factors. Regulation, number 1. Number 2, assessment. How well you assess that person depends upon the strength of the intellect. The stronger the intellect, the better the assessment. Better the assessment, better the expectation. Better the expectation, better relationship. Thirdly, you're grateful for what you're getting. So focus on what you have and what you don't, rather than what you don't have. I always tell my team, look at people who have come to attend the lecture, not those who have not come to attend the lecture. You understand? Those who have come, you service them, you teach them, you educate them. If you're focusing on those who have not come, you won't focus on those who have come then. So the tendency of the mind is to look at that. And fourth is that attitude of sacrifice. It's just a beautiful icing on the cake. The foundation is set with love. There's no expectations. You accept that person. You're not possessive. And everything is well set as far as love is concerned. And then you build the 4 pillars of the relationship, there's no reason for you to have any problems in any relationship. And that's the talk. So, love and relationships, the way you manage your love, it'll help you to bind you with the partner and it'll make your relationship flourish. And one last thing before we conclude, the way to follow up on this would be to pick up the books. And the books, out of the 12 books, I would recommend the Holocaust of Attachment, which focuses particularly on this topic of attachment. If you can get rid of that attachment, believe me, everything will be fine. There'll be affection, there'll be friendliness, there'll be joy. And the second book would be The Fall of the Human Intellect, which is an introductory book. And those who have these two books already can move on to the Vedanta treatise, which gives you the complete picture of Vedanta. So you can pick up any of the books. And in 2 days' time, it is Swami Parthasarathy's 97th birthday. He's still going strong, and we're all delighted, and I'm sure all of you will join me in wishing Swamiji the best wishes for a long future, so that he will continue to bless us in our journey of self-development. Thank you, everyone.
Could you say something about the place of honesty in love and relationships?
The place of honesty. Honesty, again, is an emotion. It has to be guided by the intellect. It depends on to what extent the other person can take honesty. It's not how much you're honest. Of course, you need to make an effort to be fully honest. But you can't express your honesty indiscriminately. If you express any emotion indiscriminately, it can actually destroy the relationship. So you have to find out to what extent the other person is capable of taking that honesty. And according to that, you've got to give. It's the same with love as well. You may have plenty of love to give. And the parents make that mistake with children. They have so much of love to shower on the children. They indiscriminately give the love to children. They spoil the children. They pamper the children. So the feeling is good. The feeling of honesty should be there. Feeling of love should be there. But when you're expressing it, it should be carefully thought of, based on the other person whom you're giving it to. What is their nature? What I already explained as vasanas. What is that person's vasanas? The person is of a suspicious nature. You may have to handle in a different way. Finally, it boils down to how unselfish that person is. The more unselfish the person is, the more the other person can forgive. The more selfish a person is, the person will not be able to forgive. So you've got to factor that in and then make a decision.
How does one shift from using the mind to using the intellect?
Good question. The shift comes as a result of a lot of effort, and the effort is to keep thinking, questioning, and that's why we offer knowledge. See, the knowledge becomes a base upon which you can question, and when you start questioning the knowledge, you apply the same sense of questioning in other fields as well, in relationships, in work, etc. Right now, people are not used to questioning. They just mechanically follow the mind. They just keep reacting to situations. They keep reacting to other people's nature. So when you start questioning and thinking, you become more objective. When you're objective, you take a step back, you assess the person's nature, find out what is the right way to relate, and you relate according to that. So intellect develops through questioning, original thinking, the capacity to think originally, which you're not trained to do that. Schools and universities don't teach us to question. They only give us intelligence. And with intelligence, the maximum you can do is to make a living. You can be successful. Many successful people don't have good relationships. They know how to make money, but they don't know how to maintain a partner. They don't know how to relate to their children. So they're very intelligent, but they don't have an intellect to control the cravings of the mind. They don't have an intellect to manage another's mind. Intellect is not taught anywhere else except here. So Vedanta specializes in developing people's intellect. So use this knowledge, start questioning, start thinking, and then you can apply it to any field and you'll be successful. So that's the difference.
Is ego and desire attachment? And what part does truth play?
Sorry, could you repeat the first question again?
Is ego and desire attachment? And what part does truth play?
When you say ego, what is ego? Ego is nothing but a sense of individuality. Me, mine. And selfishness comes as a result of ego. We call it as ego and egocentric desires. So what is selfishness? Selfishness is ego and egocentric desires. So the desires are all centered on yourself. Me, me, me. You may say it extends to the family. Why? Because they cater to you. So ultimately, even when you say family, it comes back to you. As long as they cater to you. The moment they don't cater to you, you say, I can't relate to that person. So that is attachment. Attachment is ego and egocentric desires. Second question, can you repeat it, please?
Sorry. What part does truth play?
Truth, that's exactly what the other question also was on honesty. So truth is, again, you are truthful. You are ready to say anything and everything. But you've got to be careful to whom you're saying it. Is the other person able to receive your truth, process the truth? If they are not capable of processing the truth, you should not give. You're damaging that person. It is unhealthy to give when the person can't take it. So you've got to be careful. See, for example, the Upanishads, they proclaim this whole world is an illusion. You understand? People can't take it. If you go around the streets saying the whole world is an illusion, and that's what happened to Socrates. Socrates was given a cup of poison because he was challenging the youngsters. They were not able to take his intellect. They were not able to take the truth. So you'll get into serious trouble if you indiscriminately give the truth. You've got to assess the audience. You've got to assess the other person and present it according to that. Okay?
You spoke on how no one partner can meet all of your needs. I wonder if you could speak to the merits of monogamy versus the alternatives.
Again, it depends on how objective you are. I already gave the example of Krishna. You understand? He was extremely objective, 100% objective. So you can manage multiple partners. The more you're objective, the more people you can relate to. The more people you can manage. Less you're objective, even one person you can hardly manage. So it depends upon the strength of your intellect, depends upon objectivity. There's no right or wrong. It depends upon you and the other person. Obviously it's consenting. Between consenting adults, whatever it is, works. But if you're not objective, don't get into it. It'll bring down the whole thing. Whatever peace of mind you lose. It may sound fascinating, may sound very attractive, but you need to be extremely objective to be able to handle various emotions. Like I already said, you can't handle your own mind. Your own emotions you're not able to handle. How can you handle one person or two people? It's very difficult. Also, what complicates it further is children. First of all, you can't manage yourself. Then you have to manage one person. Then you have to manage 2, 3 others. It makes it more and more difficult. That's why this knowledge has to be taught when a person is young. So they're well prepared. They know what they're getting into. By the time you realize what you're getting into, You're already married, you have 2 kids, you have 1 dog. And then you hear about all this, it's a long way off. So you've got to be prepared for it well in advance.
Thank you, Bhaskarji. Quick question. How can we express dissatisfaction while at the same time being accepting and happy? How can we express, maybe we don't like something about our partner, maybe he's not keeping the room clean, or there can be so many examples. So how can we express our dissatisfaction while at the same time maintaining the relationship? Thank you.
You should not express dissatisfaction. In fact, you should not even mentally think of it. See, sometimes when people come and consult, and I give them this advice, don't have any expectation, leave that person alone. After a while, the person comes back and say, no, I've left him alone, but still it's not working. To which I ask, are you mentally thinking? So when you're seeing that person, you may not articulate. You're not saying anything, but mentally you're thinking, why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? Other person can feel that. You understand? So it's not what you say, it's what you think that matters. So at the thinking level itself, there should be acceptance. Let that person be. Whatever that person wants to be, let that person be. I give full freedom. That's it. If he wants to destroy himself, well and good, it's up to him. So if you give that much of freedom, then they come closer to you. So even you see parents, the children will be closer to one parent, not the other. This is the root cause. The root cause is that parent gives more freedom. Whoever gives more freedom, you will automatically gravitate. The justification is, I'm doing it for the sake of the other person. This is the justification. But that is still attachment. That is still selfishness. Who am I to decide what is right for the other person? So you don't, unless the other person is open to ask you, then you can very well explain the whole thing. Until you're asked, you don't say it. No unsolicited advice. So as long as, I'm coming and talking here because I'm put on stage and I have to give a lecture. But I don't keep lecturing everywhere else I go. You understand? I have a lovely neighbor. I listen to his lectures all the time. Because the moment I come out of the car, we all have a common car park, I come out of the car, he's in the ground floor, I'm upstairs. He sees me, he comes out. He catches me. He says, Bhaskarji, you don't know what happened. I went to Philippines. He shows me photos of Philippines, this, that. I patiently listen to him, I talk to him, and inquire also. I remember what was the previous conversation. I said, no, you said last time you went to Bali. Yeah, that is different. Philippines, you shouldn't miss Philippines. I said, yes, definitely. Well, lovely call, 15 minutes. I'm gone. I don't tell him anything. We are excellent. He talks to me because I listen to him. You should have the capacity to listen. You should have the humility to listen. And all the time you're thinking, believe me, he's a chain smoker, the neighbor. His teeth and all is got this thing, and all the time he's smoking. Somebody is talking to me also smoking. I've not told him even a single time. I could also say it's for his benefit. No. That's why he's close. When you leave them alone, they'll come close. When you go after them, they say bye-bye.
Can a relationship between 2 people with diametrically opposing vasanas survive? I note that you stated that a relationship can survive if one person is detached, but this seems imbalanced, draining. This one person seems to give and give, but seldom receives. Eventually they'll crumble. Don't both people have to be detached?
Not necessary. The detachment doesn't mean that you become a doormat. Detachment simply means that you are in control of the relationship. So you want to be strict, you can be strict. You can do whatever you want. That's why I clarified, detachment is not physical, it is mental. So externally you can do anything to set right the relationship. Internally, there's no attachment. There's full freedom that you give. So it's definitely not that if you're detached, you'll be taken advantage of. It's a control you will get over the other person. that example of the taming of the shrew, Petruchio, he is downright rude with Katharina at the start of the play. You almost feel sorry for her. Why is he doing this? But then you realize later, why is he doing it? Because to bring her around. Because she's extremely spoiled by her father. So he had to get her out of that mindset. And at the end, a beautiful couple. So detachment is the ability to relate, to take the right decisions, to use the intellect. That's why I said it's not indifference. It's not indifference, but detachment is consciously understanding how you should relate.